Welcome to Cocktails and Classics, where each episode we force our friend Cameron, who hasn't seen many classic films, to watch one. I'm Dylan, your host, and joining me this week, we have the muse of the show, the man who hasn't seen many movies, Cameron.
How are you now?
We have the quizmaster himself, Zach.
Heidi ho.
Our pop culture connoisseur and resident comic book expert, Ben.
Hey, everyone.
And last but not least, our makeshift bartender, the drinker and the thinker, Carlos.
How's it going, eh?
Beautiful. Now that we've got our shitty Minnesotan accents out of the way.
Shitty.
That was Ben's shitty Minnesota accent, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm real sorry about that. I didn't think about doing the accent. I was trying to fix my audio.
It's basically a small toned down version of a Canadian accent.
Yeah, it's hard to get south of the Canada border.
It's pretty much.
This is 1 month living in the Minnesota. About to go fishing the hole over there.
Carlos is like backwoods. He's like Saskatchewan or some shit right there.
Carlos is like, this is 2 weeks in a row watching Fargo, eh?
Carlos like, I wish I could get some goddamn reception on this motherfucking TV, you know?
This week we watched Fargo from the Coen Brothers. And to go along with the movie, we need some liquid refreshment. Carlos, what are we sipping this week?
So thanks for tuning in, everyone. This week, we are drinking the Bootleg cocktail. This one comes to us from Pip and Ebby, so check out the recipe in the show notes below. Here's what you're going to need to make this drink. You're going to need 1 can of frozen limeade, 1 can of frozen lemonade, 2 bunches of mint, 1/4 cup of simple syrup, 8 ounces of vodka or gin is another option, water, and club soda. Check out the recipe in the show notes below. You're going to find that this is a really interesting cocktail to make, so I hope you have a good time making it. If you do make one, send us a picture on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod and use hashtag Cocktails and Classics. We'd love to see what you make and hear your thoughts on how your bootleg comes out. Let's see what the guys think of it.
I think it's really tasty. Like, this actually might be one of my favorites. I ended up making it with gin, and it was actually really simple. You know, everything in the blender, and it literally made like 10 of these drinks. So we're probably going to be feeling pretty good after this one.
So Cameron's going to be drinking it for like the next week.
I've got half. It's like half down.
Puts blender
Or
back
he
in
shocks
freezer.
the world and does it all right now.
I'm not going to do it all now, but it does make a lot.
Literally just drinking from the blender.
It is like a very like summery limeade. The mint's going to give you a little cool, refreshing, and you have your sweet and your sour from the limeade and lemonade. It's a nice drink.
Yeah, I normally don't like mint in drinks that much, but the mint was a nice touch in this one.
You heard it here first, Cam. Not a mojito man.
Not really, no.
I think it's interesting that we picked a classic Minnesota drink that feels great for a summer for a movie that takes place under a complete blanket of snow. But it is a really good cocktail.
It's the official cocktail of Minnesota, Ben. Shut up.
The official cocktail. I don't know if that's true.
I talked to Minnesota today, and they said it is.
I got the CEO of Minnesota.
If you haven't seen the movie Fargo, sit back, sip on this week's cocktail, the Bootleg cocktail, and enjoy the show. There will be spoilers from here on out, so heads up. Otherwise, continue on for our post-movie discussion. We'll be right back after we take a quick break.
This week, we watched Fargo, a 1996 film directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, starring William H. Macy, Frances McDormand, Steve Buscemi. Who else is in here? There's a ton of like
Marlon Brando.
A ton.
He's definitely not in this movie. Peter Stormare.
Say Peter Stormare.
Stormare? Oh, well.
I
Screw me.
think. I don't know.
Her husband
Just say
in
it
the
however
film
the
is,
fuck you want.
Her husband is somebody. What's his name? Where is he in here?
Oh, I can't remember his name. He was on the Drew Carey show. That's where
It's
I know
like
him
a
from.
John Carroll Lynch.
Yes, he's in like a bunch of stuff. He's a great character act. I feel like this movie had a bunch of great character actors. I'll save that for later.
Brief little plot summary here. Jerry Lundegaard is a car salesman in Minneapolis who has gotten himself into debt and is so desperate for money that he hires 2 thugs to kidnap his own wife. Jerry will collect the ransom from her wealthy father, paying the thugs a small portion and keeping the rest to satisfy his debts. The scheme collapses when the thugs shoot a state trooper. Fargo has a 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. It's currently rated number 177 out of the top 250. It's won 2 Oscars. Frances McDormand, I believe, won Best Actress and Best Writing for the Coen Brothers. I'm personally a stan. I love the Coen Brothers. Plus Deakins, their longtime collaborator. He's fantastic. It took the man 15 attempts to win an Oscar, but finally did it. Cameron, what is your initial thoughts and reactions to the film?
This movie was wild. I liked it. I wasn't sure where it was going to go. I kind of knew the plot synopsis just from, the movie being pretty popular, but I did not expect to see where it was going.
What I love about the Coen Brothers is their ability to their use of a MacGuffin is just so fantastic. Like, this whole movie, they never explain what Jerry's in debt for. Like, you'd think at some point the movie's about him paying back this debt, but he never explains why. There's no reasoning behind it. It's just there to set up the movie. I think they do that really well too with No Country for Old Men, and just a lot of their movies. It's just they're really good at that, setting up here's this storyline, but we're going to take you in a completely opposite direction, and the movie's going to be better for it.
It's interesting how I feel like a lot of the movie they didn't bullshit you a lot. You know what I mean? They were all right, we're just going to tell you the information you need to know in order for our plot to keep forward, essentially. The very first scene where he meets the 2 thugs in the bar, they didn't go into, like you said, how he got into debt or anything. They literally just went in and were yep, I need you guys to kidnap my wife. I'm in a lot of debt. I need you guys to do this. This is how much I'm going to pay you. Where am I going to get the money? I know it's confusing, but blah, blah, blah. So, I liked how they kind of just, got straight to the point and then got on with themselves. It feels kind of like the Spider-Man movies, how a lot, in a lot of them, they'd, kill off, Uncle Ben every single time. But then the most recent one was just Uncle Ben's dead. You guys know that. We know that. Let's just keep going.
Going off of that, how you said, they get right to the point, it's so interesting the way they contrast in writing, where some scenes it's they get right to the point, and then there's some scenes that they just kind of let breathe. And for example, this scene where the sheriff goes out to her car and the camera just sits on her husband eating breakfast while she's out fiddling with the car. No one says anything. You're just why? What is going on? Why are we just hovering here? And then she comes back in. Was that really necessary? No. But the fact that they let that moment breathe is really interesting when you can contrast that with other parts of the movie where it's we're not going to bullshit you with filler. We're just going to get to the point. And I love, I feel like that's something they do in a lot of their movies that I really didn't appreciate definitely as much the first time I saw this movie, but on the rewatch I was I love this. I love the way they do that.
Yeah, at what point, or maybe if at all, did you guys stop rooting for Jerry as the good guy?
Minute 1.
Yeah, minute 1.
See, that it wasn't as immediate for me, though. I will say, I can, sometimes people get in tough situations, and that's rough. But that's an interesting question, because I feel like that does happen. I feel like when you're watching this movie, there is a certain point where you're wow, Jerry really fucking sucks. He is such a pansy coward that he's terrible.
He's a wet paper towel of a human.
Yeah.
He's a weasel. I've written all these things down.
He is the ultimate beta male.
My gosh.
I will say one of the scenes that did it for me was it's so innocuous in hindsight, but when he has those customers in and the customer's really mad at him for screwing him out of a deal,
and he just sits down,
and then he's nah, this is your car, and he's this is not the car I want, and he's all right, we'll do $100 off of the paint job. It's wow, you were a skeezy motherfucker.
You told me you weren't going to charge me at all for this undercoating, and then now you're charging me. I don't want this undercoating. Okay. Well, I'll talk to the boss and see what we can do. walks back in and is like, so I got $100 off the undercoating. And the guy's like, fuck it. You know what? I'm just going to pay it. I'm done. I'm done dealing with your bullshit. Like, he's such a fucking dick.
Or the cavalier attitude he has towards his child, where the grandfather's like, "What are you gonna tell your kid?" Or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
He's like,
that
"Oh,
guy.
shit, I forgot. I forgot about the impact having the mother of my child kidnapped would have on my son."
And he probably and the kid obviously finds out about it on his own.
Right.
Yeah, like took the right hand man of your father-in-law to like remind you that your son has an emotions.
When he's like sitting there practicing how he's going to call his father-in-law, it's one of those scenes that's like a turning point where you're like, okay, I mean, like maybe his, what he's doing is definitely shitty. But then at that point, you're like, really? You fucking asshole.
But up to that point, like, minute one, you don't really expect like the long chain of events that probably led up to him being in debt. But then when he's like practicing how he's gonna, call his father-in-law on the phone, he's obviously like been used to getting away with things, or like you said, like weaseling his way through to try to, come out on top. But he kind of I feel like he starts to unravel after a while. And that being one of them, because he, probably in the past, he didn't really have to put much effort into being a sleaze and a con man.
He's a used car salesman. I think he's got the sleaze down.
Oh yeah.
That scene is one of those like exemplary, like Coen Brothers can add a little bit of humor to anything. They're masters at that, because in that scene, we stay on the window. He's practicing all these like different ways he's going to say it. We come back around the corner. He finally like has found the one he's going to say, goes, calls him, and he's like getting ready. And then it's like the secretary answers the phone and he's just like, oh,
Yeah.
shit, okay.
Can I speak to Wade, please? Like, just totally nonchalant.
I will say though, in his defense, which if it's possible, his father-in-law is a real piece of shit.
Yeah, they definitely
Like-
set him up as the bad guy. Until you watch the rest of the movie, then clearly Jerry's in
Right.
the wrong. But yeah, Wade is definitely
Right.
the douchebag bad guy at the beginning.
Yeah, because like he's like, yeah, it'll be good for us, so we don't have to worry. And he's like, yeah, your wife and son will never have to worry, but not you, you little fucking shit. Yeah.
He probably just figures he'll con his way out of like some 6-figure deal.
I mean, that's what he tried to do, right? Like, he tried to get his father-in-law to directly give him
when
money.
he's like, I have this lot of land. You should give me money to buy it. Like, oh, you want the finder's fee? What? No, I thought like you were just going to give me the money to buy it. No, we're not going to do that.
And they're like, why
Oh.
the fuck would we
Well-
give you money straight up? That is not how business works in any capacity.
I just like afterwards, they're just like, so like, if you're not interested, we're just going to buy it.
What I find interesting throughout the whole movie is that like even like smaller scenes where William H. Macy is on the phone with that one guy. He said like, oh no, like I'll fax it over to you. I promise I'll fax it. Like
loans.
it's all smudged, but the deal's already done. The deal's already done. Like he's putting it's comical how much effort like the criminals in this movie are putting into this operation, and it feels like Marge is just kind of going about her day. Like she's kind of just like, easy pace in it. And then, she really doesn't have to do much to have these criminals basically like fall back on themselves.
That's one thing I kind of thought watching it was that it seems like a parody on the Midwest, because they like, oh, you're going fishing this weekend, eh? You're going up to the lake. And then it's like, we're at a buffet, and like all the cops just seem really like, it's almost like a David Lynch film on how like nonchalant and kind of inept the police are. But then Marge is also like this great detective and
they're good.
solves
Yeah.
the crime,
But it doesn't seem like, it's like she doesn't have to put any effort. Yeah.
Immediately. Like, she has no problem with it at all.
Yeah, she like crouches down and she's like, oh, there's some footprints here.
This guy was big. And then she she pulls up to the scene like, yeah, cop must have pulled him over. Someone drove by, so they went and killed him. And then they,
What I love is the fact that she solves the crime with the description being like, he just looked, kind of funny looking. Can you be more specific? Well, he was uncircumcised. Okay, can you give me anything else? No, just in general, kind of funny looking. Like, All
Other than
right.
his penis, was he funny looking? Well, yeah.
Well, and the irony is the fact. Well, the irony is the fact that the cops never see Steve Buscemi's character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good point, actually. They never
Yeah, that's
find
true.
I mean, she kind of does. She finds his leg sticking out of the wood chipper.
Well, okay, they never find his face.
Yeah, she never sees how funny looking he was.
Yeah, he was. I mean, his leg was kind of funny. It's sticking at that awkward angle, getting jammed in with a line.
You're right. The leg sticking out of the chipper was pretty funny.
God, that scene is just. We'll get into, I guess, iconic scenes based off that.
We'll unpack that.
Most memorable or iconic scene for me, Woodchipper, obviously. Anyone else have something different?
One scene that was really interesting for me, not interesting, but like it kind of seemed out of place, but it was like really funny at the time, was like the scene where the detective goes to meet her like high school
Yeah.
friend or whatever, and her high school friend gets really weird. It seemed like such a non sequitur in the movie because like he's like describing how his like wife, right, like died of leukemia or whatever it was, and he like tried to like sit next to her in a super weird way while she's clearly so pregnant, and it's like, and then later she finds out that he was never married at all or anything. It's like, ugh. Creepy.
I think one of my favorite parts in this movie is the scenes where there's not really anything going on, but it's just kind of dialogue-y. Example, the scene, and it's again stuff that they don't really need to put in the movie, but it helps just keep the story going. Like the scene where Steve Buscemi and the escort are watching Jose Feliciano play in the random hotel. And it's just them like talking, like there's no reason for it, but it's just really well written dialogue that keeps the story flowing. And I think it goes to show kind of that. And we kind of talked about it with I can't remember how to pronounce their names, the Wachowskis with the Matrix, that kind of came from that same kind of class. But this definitely felt like something that was very Tarantino inspired, where it was just like, we can write a movie of people just talking and shooting the shit. It doesn't need to be constantly stuff happening. Like a movie can actually just be like real life, where people are just standing around talking.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when they adapt a book into a movie. It reminded me of the chapters they usually cut out of the book, like the sitting down, the talking, maybe there's background dialogue or like backstory into the characters, but it's just the small stuff that makes them feel human, that they usually cut out for time. This movie left it in, which I liked.
That is a great way to summarize what I was trying to say in much fewer words, and I very much appreciate it.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is Wade hyping himself up, driving his car to like the meat spot, and he's loading his revolver and like going through, all right, give me my daughter, but the money first. No, give me my daughter. He's rehearsing it in his head, and it's this huge buildup, and he finally gets to the top of the parking garage. And Steve Buscemi is like, what is this? Where's Jerry? And then just nonchalantly shoots the guy in the chest. And like, I'm not having any of this. I want my money now. I really liked how it went from this big buildup of Wade. You think he's going to go and be like the heroic guy and get his daughter back. And then Steve Buscemi just ironically shoots him.
Steve Buscemi is kind of like the easygoing guy for most of the movie up until that point. And then it's just like, that's when he snaps, and it's like, all right, I'm just going to kill people now.
Well, I just love the fact that like after he gets shot in the chin, like he looks at it and he just gets so mad that he just literally just complete overkill, just starts kicking his body, like throws a giant temper tantrum. It's like, God damn it, this was supposed to be easy.
Well, he didn't get shot in the face.
Yeah, I know, but like just the fact that like he's just cursing me and like this was supposed to be freaking easy. I'm so sick of this shit. I just want my fucking money. And he's just sitting there like kicking Wade while he's down. It's just, I don't know, just that kind of like that snap where he's like, are you shitting me? I think that was really well done.
Then his
Steve
partner
Buscemi
later kills him with
does
an
a great
axe.
job.
Goes full Jack Nicholson on him.
Yeah,
For real.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Did Steve Buscemi die like a bitch?
That's a good question. I don't think
Can
so.
that be a segment?
I think the answer to that is no, but
So the wood chipper, you you don't necessarily know what's going on at first. Like you kind of learn it as Marge learns it. Like she comes out of the car and you can kind of hear the rum in the back, but you don't necessarily know what it is. And as she gets closer and starts to round that corner, you can kind of hear like the noise it makes, like that distinct noise when you put something in a wood chipper, like the blades are going harder and they're like putting more force behind it. And then when she rounds that corner and you see the just ungodly amount of blood coming out of that thing, that is like that was a terrifying scene as a child to watch.
Did you watch this as a child?
Yeah, and how calm
Yeah.
the baddie is.
Which like right before that, he's just like sitting in there. He's just eating a TV dinner, watching some television, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant," blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Oh, this is kind of a little silly scene." Steve Buscemi walks in, camera pans over, and the wife is dead on the floor, and he's like, "Ah, she started to scream again." Right after that, goes and kills Steve Buscemi. Then, like 15 minutes later, he's got him in the wood chipper.
After he didn't like the negotiation on that car. He's like, "Yeah, give me my 40,000. Oh yeah, and we're splitting the car. How the fuck do you split a car? Oh,
One of us pays the
pay
other
me
for the
the
car."
other half of it,
That's not how this works.
and then you end up in a wood chipper.
To be fair, if Steve Buscemi's character had just been like, "Fine, you can have the car," like that guy had,
He would have had $1 million.
right. I was gonna say he has like $920,000 in a briefcase somewhere. Only he knows. Well, fuck the car, man. Go take your fucking $900,000.
It's about the bad guy ethics, the bad guy code. You don't break it.
I mean, I think Steve Buscemi broke it.
Put too much work in until your downfall.
I mean, that seems like a fair shake. Like, yeah, one of us should pay the other for half of the car. That seems like a good deal to me. Especially when the alternative is get chopped in half and then go into a wood chipper.
I don't think Steve Buscemi's character would have lived anyways. I think that was actually really well kind of alluded to when Jerry goes to talk to the guy who set him up
Shep or
with Steve
whatever.
Buscemi's
Shep.
character.
Shep.
Because he goes to talk to him and he goes, Shep, yeah. He goes, yeah. I met with this this guy and his buddy, and he goes, oh, I didn't vouch for any friends. Well, I mean, he's a friend of this guy, so I'm sure it's no. I only vouched for the one guy. I think that kind of was supposed to be like an allusion to the fact that Peter Stormare's character was probably not to be trusted.
The whole time, pretty much.
Little foreshadowing, just peppered in there. Casual dialogue.
Which then prompts Shep to go back and obviously hurl Steve Buscemi around a room for
His
a little
naked
bit.
ass just flailing around the room.
But that's got to be like an all-time like greatest
Ass shot.
gooch shot in a movie.
Yes.
The gooch was on full display, and I think they did a good job with him leaping over the couch like that. You don't get quality gooch in many movies, and this one delivered.
Did anyone have a memorable line or most quotable line? All of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Weren't you going ice fishing?
Well, what'd you get me for lunch, Arby's?
Ooh, night crawlers.
I also like this scene where the other cop is talking to the guy, and he's like, well, he kept calling me and asking me about, trying to set him up with someone. And I tried telling him, we don't do that. But he kept insisting. And, he said the last guy who told him no, well, he was in a pretty bad spot. And, well, he was dead now. And it wasn't because of health reasons, if you know what he means. And, I just told him we don't really do that. And then, I heard about the thing over. So I just figured I'd give y'all a call. It's just like, what? Can you describe him? Yeah, he was kind of funny looking. God damn it.
I enjoyed all of the William H. Macy, what I'll call old-timey phrases, old-timey white guy phrases, like, oh,
Yeah.
gee Williger, stuff like that. That was funny.
Steve Buscemi's like, whoa, daddy, when the cop gets killed.
Whoa, daddy.
Yeah.
That freaking fountain of blood out of the police officer's noggin.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I know. I was not.
That was
I
so
not
fast,
ready
too,
for
isn't
that.
it?
I was like,
It
oh
was
God,
like
okay,
very
all right.
quick.
There's just
Like, oh, he's dead.
It was like popping a
Yeah.
bottle of champagne.
Yeah. Whoa, daddy.
but still, yeah. And Peter Stormare is just, obviously just dead faced, just kind of. He's like, yep, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this right now and chase down the witnesses.
Or when he goes to like hand him the wallet. Oh, I just figured maybe we could take care of that, here. Sir, what is this? Well, that's just my license and registration. But, I figured while we're here, maybe we could just settle this now. The guy's just like, okay, step out of the car. Just, he's so good at being weaselly.
The dialogue when essentially Jerry's character like breaks down near the end of the movie with the cop, where she's asking like very simple questions and he's just like, I'm cooperating, okay? I'm cooperating with you, okay? All right, fine. I'll go take inventory right now. And then he just like leaves.
And she feels bad
And
too.
she's like,
Yeah,
oh,
he's
he's
like, gets in the
fleeing.
car and
He's
you're
runs
gonna go
away.
do it now?
He's
Yeah,
fleeing
looking
the
for someone
interview.
to talk to.
Well, you don't have to do it right now. Well, the other thing I like is when she goes to pick up the phone while he's leaving, and she's like, "Oh, how do I dial out?" Like she has no idea, because it's just like the company phone. She's just like, how do I dial out? She just starts pressing buttons until finally she gets a hold of someone.
I'll tell you
Oh.
what, like though him jumping out of there though was probably the most Frank Gallagher reaction that he probably had in that movie. I don't know if any fans of Shameless, but William H. Macy gets into some pretty similar shenanigans in that show, and it didn't seem any different in that scene.
Yeah, the one line that I really enjoyed was Steve Buscemi when he's banging the girl after the show, and then Shep walks in and he's like, Shep, what the fuck are you doing? I'm banging that girl. Like, all right, like Shep didn't know that. Like he was
Like, he
unaware.
saw-
he clearly
he
doesn't
saw it.
care. He's coming to beat your ass, and you know
Well,
it.
and then that guy like comes to like intervene. He's like, "What are you guys making all this noise for?" And then Shep starts kicking his ass too.
Well, and then the escort starts like running down, and like as she's running away from him, he just boots her in the ass too before walking back in.
Shep's mad, man. He doesn't want to go back to jail.
He doesn't care who
Their
you
stupid
are.
ass.
All Shep is seeing is asses that need to be kicked, and he doesn't care whose it is.
Was there a holy shit moment for anybody?
I mean, the fountain of blood.
Right.
I mean-
the wood chipper?
Yeah, I'll say the good old wood chipper scene.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the wood
Oh, the
chipper,
cop,
obviously, but
yeah.
yeah, I was talking about the cop on the side of the road. It gets shot in the head, and it's just a drinking fountain inside
yeah.
Steve Buscemi's lap of this cop blood.
I think most of the
Right after that too,
Yeah.
when he just like whips the car around and chases down those people and like executes
Yeah.
them, you're like, holy shit! Like this was bad, but now it's worse.
Yeah, I think most of the holy shit moments were around the murders. Like, I was actually really surprised that he ended up killing the father-in-law.
Did you think he was gonna just save the day?
No, I wasn't sure it was gonna happen, but I didn't think he'd just like shoot him. Like point, he was like, "Oh nope, fuck this, done," and he just shot him, and then he gets shot in the face. Oh man,
Poor Wade.
The first time I saw that movie, I was like, kept waiting for him to be like, wait, where the hell is Jerry? Who are you, and why is Jerry not here? And then just like, I wanted Wade to just, before he died, realize that his son-in-law completely fucked him over.
Now he'll never be able to buy that lot.
I don't think that's what the money was for.
But I also really wanted to know what the fuck he was in debt for.
Well, and he just gets like the ultimate like weaseling is at the end when they come to the motel and he's like trying to squeak his way out of the back.
It's like
window.
trying to like
Yeah.
grip into the doorway. Just a minute. Finally, they just break down the door, and he's like trying to scurry out the back window. Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Was there an actor that stole the show?
Yes, the actor that played what's her name, Barb, the detective,
Oh, Marge.
Marge.
She won an Oscar.
Yeah,
She better have stole the show.
for that role. Yeah, no, she was great. She was great. She was like, it was funny because she was like so obviously pregnant and doing all these detective things, and then even at the end of the day, she was still like a supportive wife and was like, "Oh wow, your painting is on the 3-cent stamp. That's awesome, honey. Wow, I'm so proud of you." After she literally like caught 2 murderers, it's like
Oh.
I don't know. Her character was
She caught
great.
one.
And she sold the Midwest part so much. Like she sold the Midwestern, like, I don't know like the
Dialect.
Midwestern woman, I guess. Yeah. Like, well, just like not even her dialect, but just
Her
like
overall tone.
how
her
she talked to
characteristics.
people. Yeah. How
Yeah.
she talked to people and treated people and how she acted. Like, she nailed it.
I love the part when her husband's like, "Oh, it's just the 3-cent stamp," and she's like, "Yeah, but when postage goes up, people need the small stamps." I was like, "Oh, how wholesome."
And she was talking like that earlier too, and they were having the Arby's. He's like,
I'm probably not going to win.
like, I'm not so good. They're so good. Like the other people or whatever are so good. And she's like, yeah, they're good, but you're so much better.
Oh, you got all the Arby's all over me.
The relationship was great.
Just all around wholesome character, man.
Yeah.
Love her.
Marge was fantastic. Marge was great. I think William H. Macy deserves a shout out, specifically for that phone call scene when he's prepping all the different ways to call Wade and like tell him, "Hey, you know, your daughter's been kidnapped. Weird." I thought that was fantastic, and I think he does a great job playing the weasel throughout the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Ben and I were talking, and I mean, I've only seen this movie like once before, but I just did not realize that was Frances McDormand, because I know her from like her like stuff recently that she's done, like 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and stuff. So it's like going back and seeing this, I'm like, oh, okay, obviously she's deserves all the praise she gets because she was fantastic in this movie as well.
Yeah, I think this movie is just, it's hard to pick out an actor who stands out. Like, I feel like this movie took a bunch of kind of character actors and just let them play parts. Like, even though, you know, Frances McDormand being Marge, kind of being the main character, I guess what you would call main character, but it doesn't really seem throughout the movie that there's like one set main character. And so it's nice having character actors that you can just kind of sit back and let them like take you into the story, as opposed to being like, oh, this is obviously they got like a superstar, you know, highest paid actor they could get to be this part. Like, they just let character actors draw you in and just really tell the story.
It's a great point. I was looking at IMDb, and William H. Macy was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Role, and I was thinking about it. Like, I don't know if anybody in this movie could have won like Best Lead Actor because, like to your point, I don't know if there was a lead actor. It was just a movie with a dozen side actors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. How it works is every month members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection. Audible has a free, easy-to-use app that allows you to download titles and listen offline at your convenience. Dylan and Ben, what are your experiences with Audible?
So I used the Audible free trial a couple years ago, and I've gone back to it since. I listened to Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I really like it when I'm driving on like long road trips.
I used it to listen to one of James Ellroy's LA quartet novels, The Big Nowhere. I would definitely recommend it to anyone on the go, whether it's just driving to work or for long flights. It's great. You can, you know, listen to something on your phone, connect it to Bluetooth. You get to work, log into your work computer, and listen up.
To start your free 30-day trial, go to audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics, all lowercase. Again, that's audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics. After your free trial is up, it'll cost $14.95 per month. However, there are no commitments, and if you can't decide what to listen to at that particular month, that's okay. You can always roll your credits over for up to a year.
A little bit of a tradition around here is Zach takes over and gives us a trivia quiz. Zach, take it away.
Thanks, Dylan. All right, 3 quick questions coming at you. The first one is true or false. True or false, the actors used a book called How to Talk Minnesotan to develop their accents.
I'm going to say true just because I really want it to be true.
I'm going to say false because I feel like every actor might have just envisioned what that might have sounded like on their own accord, and they just rolled with it.
I'm going to say false. I think it was, I mean, maybe they used a book, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a Canadian book because they sounded Minnesotan, but they also sounded very Canadian.
I'm going to also say false. I feel like they were just really method and probably like spent some time in St. Paul or something.
You guys give these actors way too much credit. They needed to buy a book called How to Talk Minnesotan. So that puts Ben on the board with 1 point.
I'm surprised that's even a book, but
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't know if it was true or not, but I desperately wanted it to be true. Just to know that, like, even though they're professionals, sometimes they still need a little help.
All right. So question number 2. Ben is on the board with 1 point. So question 2. Kristen Redrude, who played the kidnapping victim Jean Lundergaard, was born in a city named Fargo, but in what state? A, North Dakota, B, Indiana, or C, Minnesota?
I'll say North Dakota.
I feel like North Dakota is the trick answer because that's where the city actually was in the movie.
And real life.
So I'm going to say, well, I know, but I just mean like that's the setting. Okay, theoretically, at least 1 or 2 of these are real cities in real life. Dylan.
Yeah, but
thank
what
you.
about Eminem? He's from Detroit, and 8 Mile takes place in Detroit.
I don't care. I'm going to say Indiana anyway.
I was thinking Indiana.
Play the game. Play
yeah, that's
the
what I'm
game.
thinking. But Ben is just going to be the outlier, and I kind of like making Ben choose between the 3. So I guess I'll go Minnesota.
My only chance at winning is to bring Ben down. So
Well, at that point, Cameron, if that's your best bet, then my best bet would just to say Indiana. So that way,
I guess
I
that's
still have more
true.
points than you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Indiana.
Well, somebody did get it right, and it was Carlos. Fargo, North Dakota is where Kristen Redrude was born.
see, that's an even more interesting fact because it's literally where the like first part of the movie takes place.
We have Ben and Carlos tied with a point, and Cameron and Dylan are also tied, but they have 0 points. Question number 3. After the group sex scene at the motel, the couples turn on The Tonight Show. Who was the host of The Tonight Show at that time? Was it A, Johnny Carson,
Johnny Carson.
B, Jay Leno, or C, Conan O'Brien?
Johnny Carson.
Carlos seems pretty confident, so I guess I'm also going to say Johnny Carson.
Fuck it. I think it's Johnny Carson, but I'm going to say Jay Leno because that's the only shot I have. It's definitely not Conan O'Brien.
I'm going to also say Jay Leno. I mean, I don't know, because it was like the 80s. I think it takes place in 87 or something.
Carlos, my man, you got to learn how to play the game. It was Johnny Carson. Ben and Carlos, tied with 2 points, will go into at this point, it's traditional tiebreaker round. I don't know if we've had a week where we didn't go into a tiebreaker. So the tiebreaker round between Ben and Carlos. Jerry's office is loaded with trophies, but what were they for? Was it A, baseball, B, golf, or C, top salesman?
I'm gonna say top salesman.
I'm thinking if Jerry were a top salesman, he wouldn't be in so much debt. I'm going to say baseball.
All right, ladies and gents, for the first time in trivia history, we have to go to a round 2 tiebreaker. The answer was golf. Jerry's office was loaded with golf trophies.
See, my mind immediately went to the I love golf, like the little notepad he kept drawing little circles on. And that's why I thought it was a trick, because it was to make me think of that. But
All right, so tiebreaker question number 2. Joel Coen and Frances McDermott are married and they have 1 child together. What year were they married?
I'm going to say 1995.
1984.
The answer is 1984. Carlos nailed it. All right, Carlos, our 3-in-a-row champion. This guy's on a roll. Thanks for playing, guys. I'll kick it back over to the rest of the guys.
I've taken the liberty of scouring internet movie database and acquiring some reviews for you guys to get you in the right headspace and maybe sway you one way or another. Let's see. It's the first review from Joe Mama 2 from July 11th, 2000. Avoid this movie. He gave it a 1 out of 10 stars. I've always heard good things about Fargo, and once it made the AFI's top 100 list of funny movies, I decided to rent it. I very rarely rent R-rated films, but this seemed to be worth it. In short, my brother and I did not laugh once, nor did we enjoy the film. First of all, the film is so violent and grotesque. I have seen many violent films before, but this went beyond anything I've seen. There are several murders committed. All of them are extremely disturbing in their depiction of blood and guts, as well as complete inhumanity of each killing. Second of all, the film has numerous moments of gratuitous sex, which serve the plot no purpose other than perhaps additional character degradation. Really hard word to say. In my opinion, this film is the second worst thing to happen to mainstream entertainment in the 90s. The worst thing is that people out there laughed at it. What a blasted hame.
This review to me screams I was homeschooled. like I feel like this person just
I can't watch Harry Potter because there's witchcraft.
yeah, it's just very much like ew, violence is icky. So is sex gross.
I watched this with my mom, and it was very uncomfortable when they had the gratuitous sex.
My mom was sitting behind me on the computer and made me type this review out because it was so gross and violent. Also, like, you don't rent R-rated movies often? What? That's such a weird thing to do and also say, like a distinction to make. Like, it's almost as if he takes...
Those are also gross and icky.
Yeah, it's almost like he takes some pride on that fact. He's like, I never watch R-rated movies. Only PG-13 and below for me.
I was expecting Toy Story, and I got something much darker.
Welcome to our Christian server where we don't watch rated R movies.
I like that he's like, this is the second worst thing to happen in the 90s. And then the greatest thing is that people laughed at it. Was that number one or was number two the movie? I'm confused.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think that was supposed to be number one. Like, and I get it. Like, if violent
that's
movies aren't your
understandable.
thing, that's fine. I feel like that's just this movie is so obvious. Like even the tag, like if you read a description of the movie on Wikipedia or IMDb where he posted the review or anywhere, like it's very much like tells you that it's going to be violent up front. I feel like the movie is pretty upfront about that.
Yeah, just look at the cover. There's a guy like bleeding out in the snow.
Also, I don't feel like this is a movie to watch to be like, oh man, I'm so ready to laugh hysterically. Let's turn on the movie that takes place in the middle of Minnesota because, that's where all the great comedies take place. What makes you think that the movie Fargo is going to just provide you with hours of laugh-filled entertainment? I didn't laugh, not even once. Cool. Okay. That's not really the movie. I don't really think there was a part in the movie that I was like bursting out laughing out loud, but
Is this movie billed as a comedy movie?
Yes. It's a black comedy.
I guess that makes sense. There are parts where it wasn't like, haha funny, but it was kind of funny in a dark way when like Steve Buscemi got shot in the face or whatever, or like grazed his thing. And he got fed up and just like kind of killed him or whatever. Like I understand how that's like kind of a dark comedy.
Yeah, I would like to see this guy's reviews of other R-rated movies and see what he thought.
Can we get this guy's review on Heathers?
I rented Animal House and the humor just doesn't hold up.
The second review I have here is we're gonna keep the author a little anonymous for now.
Is it you?
Yes, actually. Didn't think too highly of the movie, but you'll learn that from the words here. I was in my local video store looking for a movie to watch with my wife Karen. Of course, she's called Karen. During one of our few quiet evenings together at home, the clerk in the store recommended Fargo, a perversely dark crime story that had played to generally enthusiastic reviews. The movie earned even an Oscar for Frances McDormand for her role as pregnant Midwestern sheriff, and the guy behind the counter at Blockbuster assured me that it was a great movie and that I should probably rent it. So I did. Walked right over to the shelf where they had the general titles, grabbed a copy, and took it home. And when Karen and I got to the part where they chop up a guy in a grinder, we looked at each other and thought, what the heck are we watching here? It was billed as a comedy, but it wasn't funny. It was graphic, brutal, and completely unnecessary, and it rubbed us in so many wrong ways. We had to shut the thing off right there in the middle.
I don't know that I would call that part the middle.
Yeah, that was like the last 10 minutes of the movie. Also, I want to know more about this guy. He doesn't get many quiet nights at home.
Yeah, he also, next morning, I got on the phone to Blockbuster and demanded that they take the movie off their shelves. He was a fairly prominent local customer to this Blockbuster. He was personally offended, and it had nothing to do with any kind of political stand that he has. So he gets a little political.
Wow.
So what I'm hearing is another person who doesn't know what a dark or black comedy means, and he was like, "Oh, this is a comedy? Oh, I can't wait to get all of my ha-has and hee-hees from this Fargo movie." and then got to literally the last 10 minutes of the movie and thought to himself, I want to turn this off. I don't want to watch this anymore.
Right. And the only thing I really enjoyed about this review was just reminiscing about Blockbuster.
Yeah, that was nice when he talked about calling Blockbuster and taking a movie from like the releases and putting it on the counter. That was nostalgia. I remember that shitty carpet and the creepy guys that would work there.
Dylan, who wrote this review?
That review is from the man, the meme, the legend himself, former Ohio Governor John Kasich. Late 90s.
What is the context of this? What was it in?
He wrote a little book himself. Some call those
He wrote a little book himself.
Yes, some call those autobiographies. It's from his 2006 book. I guess it was a big toughie back in the 90s, early 2000s of Ohio. And that because he called the Blockbuster and was like, I'm not doing business here anymore if you still have Fargo on your shelves. That's what people from Ohio sound like.
Is that your your Ohio
that southern
accent?
Midwest accent? Ben says no. It's not
Well,
where
you
people
know.
from Ohio come from.
Well, how
I
are
mean,
you
it's
now?
people that are from the Midwest but act like they're from the South. You know the type. I'm not surprised that John Kasich would be taken aback by it.
I am glad that he enjoyed his trips to Blockbuster, though, just like all of us.
Carlos has such a boner for Blockbuster.
Dude, I
My
remember
memories of
when,
Blockbuster are not fond
when they closed down, man.
But
remember
you
when
guys
we-
know why they closed, right?
because they refused. They didn't buy Netflix for like $1 million.
No, they closed because
No, it's because they put Fargo back on their
yeah,
shelves.
they put Fargo back on the shelves. But you
Oh.
know who didn't put Fargo back on their shelves? Family
Family Video.
Video, which is why they are still open to this day, making bank off those CBD products.
Carlos keeps his Blockbuster card in his wallet.
Dude, I might.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's because John Kasich kept doing business there.
He single-handedly keeps video stores alive. That
Oh,
man does
yeah.
not have a Netflix account.
Oh yeah,
He might
Why
he
would
might
you do that?
steal it from his cousin or something. It doesn't pay, but if you could replace any actor in the film, living or dead, who would it be?
For Steve Buscemi's character, I would say, what's the actor's name? He played McLovin in Superbad.
God, like Chris Malone,
Christopher
yeah.
Mintz-Plasse.
I was gonna say Christopher Maloney, but it's
Oh,
definitely
chicka,
not
chicka,
Christopher.
oh.
Christopher Maloney. Oh my god.
It would be so perfect, man. He's so spazzy. He'd be perfect for it.
Christopher Maloney, though, for
Okay,
the blonde villain.
that's what I was gonna say.
Wait,
As a side
really?
note, Christopher Maloney for the second Thug. Yes, his intensity. He can bring such intensity to any like his roles that he plays. Like, I think he could easily do that. And he plays kind of a deranged person in that. What is it? Sci-fi or something? Happy,
Crazy?
isn't it called? Something like that.
Happy. Yeah, that's what it is.
I haven't seen the show yet, but he plays kind of that type of person anyway.
He also plays a super unhinged person in Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh.
Much more comedically unhinged, but also unhinged.
Father-in-law, I could see being played nowadays by like a Michael Keaton type of character or something like that. I think he'd be really good at that type of role. Because he's kind of a dick in some of his roles that he's played.
Oh.
You know, like is that like,
Bruce Willis.
Oh,
He
that's a who?
loves some Bruce Willis.
Just Bruce Willis.
Just Bruce
any role.
Willis.
Just get him
he
in
could do
there.
any role.
Let him play Marge. I don't give a shit.
Don't even give him
see
a
him.
script. Just let him
I
go.
could see him as the father-in-law, though.
That's
Yeah.
what I was mainly thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bruce Willis is too badass to play the father-in-law.
I think that's what makes it better. Like if he were driving to go meet with Steve Buscemi's character and he's like talking all tough, and then he just gets shot right away. I think that would make it even better.
Yeah, that's true. He could like succumb to that's true.
What about Marge?
What's that lady that plays Leela, that voices Leela and is in Married with Children?
Kate Segal.
I don't remember
She
her
plays
name,
the
but
mom in Married
I
with
think
Children.
it's Kate Segal.
yeah.
Peggy. I don't remember. her
Yeah,
name.
she was also in 8 Simple Rules.
I don't know. I could see her doing it, but mostly
Honestly,
because she's
it's-
already got that kind of vibe down already.
I know I've brought up this guy before, but I feel like Al Pacino as Steve Buscemi's character would be good because he could play like
Mhm.
that kind of calm guy. And then that scene on the parking structure where he just loses it. I'd like to see Al Pacino go all Scarface and just lose his mind on Wade.
Right. Especially because he is already
So-
like kind of a little guy too. Like he's not like small, but he's not like, the giant lurking character that is like, playing opposite of him. So I could see that. Yeah.
The other one I could think of that would be really interesting and kind of change the direction of the movie would be Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes as the two kidnappers and just make it a comedy movie.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
With Will Ferrell as William
But
H.
switch
Macy.
it.
Oh my god.
Switch it.
God. Well, yeah,
Make-
Will Ferrell would
Make
be.
Kevin Smith the
could see
talkative
that.
one and Jason Mewes the intense silent one.
Who would you have as the detective then in this theoretical comedy? I like Will Smith as the Jerry.
Seth
character.
Rogen.
Not Will
as
Smith.
one
Fuck.
of the Seth Rogen as one of the
Will
policemen.
Smith. No, I like Will Ferrell as the Jerry character, but I'm wondering who the detective character would be.
Tina Fey.
Oh, it would obviously be what's her face, the guy or the woman that plays or that acts with Will Ferrell a lot. What's her name? Molly something.
Molly
Molly
Shannon?
Shannon.
Yeah.
Oh,
her.
okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Amy Poehler.
Oh,
Amy
Amy
Poehler would be
Poehler,
good.
yeah.
Bill Hader.
Oh, Bill Hader would be great.
Yeah, he would be good because he honestly kind of plays that type of character a little bit in Barry, who like he's trying to like lead a dual life kind of thing in Barry, and so I can see that.
Well, guys, we have a classic 2008 comedy here.
Honestly, I think this would actually work. We should contact Funny or Die.
They would do what he did.
We'll get Adam Scott to rewrite it. Or Adam McKay.
Adam Scott.
But let's get Adam Scott in there too.
You know, I'd also want to see John C. Reilly as Marge's husband.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that would be
Is- wait,
hilarious
is
because he's
who?
like, especially because he's like the painter guy.
oh. See, I was gonna say John Hamm for that because he's always in those comedy movies, but as like the super
Some
casual, like straight laced guy.
Yeah,
And I
some
feel like
side
that would
character.
be really fun.
A lot of times he also plays the dum dum,
Yeah.
which is weird to me. John
Yeah.
Hamm plays the dum dum in a lot of the random stuff that he does.
but I feel like he would be really good in that, like just like casually, just he's like it's really a low part for what you would expect from John Hamm, but he's there still.
Before the movie, those of us who had seen it wrote down our ratings based off nostalgia and memory, and now I want to know if your rating has changed or not. So for me, I've only seen this movie once that I can remember beforehand, and I give it like a 7 out of 10. I remember it somewhat fondly, but now that I'm older and I can understand the themes more, and I kind of see, you kind of open your eyes and you learn more. I gave this movie actually a 9 out of 10.
Ooh.
I raised it up. I found a new affinity for this movie. I love the Coen Brothers. I love Deeks. Just everything about it. I felt like it was a great ensemble. Funny, dark bits, a little over the top violence, but it's not too violent. Like the reviews said it was super violent, and I don't think it is at all. I just highly recommend it to anybody that likes that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I very much agree with what Dylan said. Going into this movie, I had given it a 7. It was a movie that I remembered as being a good watch. It was enjoyable, but not like spectacular. And after the rewatch, I have such a much greater appreciation for the small nuances of the movie. So I bumped that 7 up also to a 9. I think this is a movie that's just really great at what it does. It lets the actors just kind of bring you in. And the other thing about this movie is the fact that with it only being an hour and 40 minutes, like it doesn't feel, there's at no point that it feels like it's dragging or it's super long. And it's a movie that I feel like you can just kind of take your time to watch. You know, if you just have time to kill, this is a movie I feel like I will probably watch a lot more frequently now.
It's funny you say that because I remember going into this movie, watching it today. I was not excited to watch it because I remember it being so slow. And I don't know when was the last time I saw it, but before I watched it, I gave it a 3. I was like, I don't remember anything really good about this movie, but I absolutely have to flip that. I gave it an 8 coming out of watching it. Maybe I'm just older now and I can appreciate a lot more. Maybe I was younger and some of this stuff went over my head, but yeah, there's a lot of great dialogue. The characters play the Minnesota kind of Midwesternness perfectly. And the interactions between like William H. Macy and Wade. I've thought a lot of this movie was really well done, so I'm gonna give it an 8.
So besides Cameron, I also had not seen this movie before. And I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give it a 9 as well. I'm a huge fan of like crime and suspense, thriller style movies. I also like how they kind of just let the dialogue kind of flow through the movie, and you can really see how each of the actors kind of takes the freedom of being able to take on their own persona as their character in this. Kind of really like transforms the movie into, you know, a thriller, but also with some underlying humor that just makes it overall, an entertaining movie. And so I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I give it a 9, and I definitely would be curious to check out the show that FX created based on this. I don't know if you guys ever watched it, but I'd be curious to look into that.
I have not. I've heard great things, and I think
Yeah.
it's an anthology series. So from season to season, it differs on the
Oh,
plot.
really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Some pretty big
Don't
names, some
quote
pretty
me.
big names in the series too. It
I
looks
think
like
Billy Bob Thornton's in it, right?
I'm
Um,
not sure. There's
yeah,
a lot
Billy
of
Bob
people.
Thornton's in it. I think Patrick Wilson is in one of the seasons.
It's got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. I might legitimately have to check it out because that looks good. Going into this movie, I wasn't sure what to expect, but like you guys, I really appreciated the movie. As I said before, I really like their no bullshit approach to storytelling for the Coen Brothers. There were scenes that were in there that not a lot happened in it, but they were good scenes altogether because they were, the detail in those scenes was very obvious. So coming out of the movie, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10 because I liked the movie. It never felt like it dragged. I was hold on. I was invested in the plot from start to finish, and there were a lot of genuinely surprising moments in it. So I really liked it. And similar to Carlos, I'm curious to check out the TV show that they made based on it as well.
Would you recommend the movie? Is it a classic, Cam?
I would recommend the movie. It's interesting because it did come out in the 90s. So, but I mean, I guess if we're saying like The Matrix would be a classic, I think this is a classic movie. I haven't seen a movie quite like it, honestly. And so I would highly recommend people watch it.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to rate and review, share us with your friends, and hit us up on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod. Use the hashtag Cocktails and Classics. Send us your drink and movie recommendations there. Thanks for listening, everybody, and as always, watch responsibly.